Hey everyone, welcome to another weekly rundown. This week we're covering April 18th through 24th. President Trump kept the pressure on Iran with a crushing blockade while dangling a deal they couldn't refuse, and the Southern Poverty Law Center finally faced justice for allegedly funding the very hate groups they pretend to fight. California Democrats doubled down on protecting fraud instead of stopping it, and we're seeing real movement on veterans' mental health, deep state accountability, and fixing D.C. Let's dive in. The U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports remained in full effect, with CENTCOM reporting 27 to 33 vessels redirected or turned back. U.S. forces, including guided missile destroyers like the USS Pinckney, USS Spruance, and USS Rafael Peralta, Apache helicopters, and additional assets, enforced the measure. One Iranian-flagged cargo ship was intercepted. After the crew ignored warnings, the Navy fired into its engine room, and U.S. Marines took custody. Another sanctioned vessel was boarded in the Indian Ocean, and reports of Iran firing on or attacking tankers circulated, though details varied. President Trump warned of resuming strikes if Iran did not comply, emphasizing power plants and bridges as potential targets. He extended the 2-week ceasefire by 3 to 5 days, later described as open-ended pending a unified Iranian proposal, at the request of Pakistani officials, while keeping the blockade active. Vice President J.D. Vance's planned trip to Islamabad for talks was delayed amid Iranian internal power struggles between officials and IRGC hardliners. Trump stated the concept of a deal was largely done but required Iranian unity and acceptance of core U.S. terms: no nuclear weapons or enrichment, retrieval of nuclear material, opening the strait without tolls, and ending proxy support. No U.S. cash or asset releases were involved. 3 U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups, the Abraham Lincoln, Gerald R. Ford, George H.W. Bush, operated in the region simultaneously with over 200 aircraft and 15,000 personnel. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent froze $344 million in Iranian crypto assets and sanctioned Chinese entities and shadow fleet vessels aiding Iran. Economic pressure mounted, with Iran reportedly losing over $400 million daily. Trump noted empty tankers heading to U.S. ports for American oil, highlighted Iran's financial strain, and he also secured the release of 8 Iranian women scheduled for execution. The Department of Justice and FBI Director Kash Patel announced an 11-count indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center, or SPLC, alleging wire fraud, false statements, and money laundering. The SPLC reportedly funneled over $3 million to individuals linked to the KKK, neo-Nazis, and other extremist groups, including a key organizer of the 2017 Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, while soliciting donations to fight such groups. Director Patel said the SPLC lied to donors, and the Biden-era DOJ allegedly blocked prior investigations. The House Judiciary Committee launched its own probe, and calls grew to revoke the SPLC's tax-exempt status. In California, scrutiny of Governor Gavin Newsom's administration continued over massive hospice and Medi-Cal fraud. CMS Administrator Dr. Oz reported shutting down payments to over 450 LA area hospices, nearly $1 billion, with zero pushback, suggesting widespread fraud. The controversial Stop Nick Shirley Act advanced, which critics said would criminalize citizen journalists exposing NGO fraud with fines and content takedowns. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. highlighted prior policies enrolling nearly 1.5 million illegal immigrants in Medicaid, and nationwide, the Anti-Fraud Task Force suspended hundreds of providers and targeted billions in questionable grants. Representative Sheila Sheriffless McCormick resigned amid theft allegations involving $5 million in FEMA funds, as expulsion proceedings had been advancing. Representative Eric Swalwell's earlier resignation and related scandals continued to ripple with ongoing investigations, and Representative Nancy Mace filed to expel Representative Corey Mills on accusations of sexual misconduct, lying about military service, and illicit involvement in federal contracts while in Congress. Representative Ilhan Omar faced renewed scrutiny over her financial disclosures, with her net worth being from up to $30 million down to low six figures, what she's calling an accounting error. She faced alleged ties to fraud schemes and investigations by House committees and others, with Border Czar Tom Homan confirming there is an ongoing investigation into Omar, but he could not comment further due to its active nature. Omar's winery was shut down after her net worth plummeted, and it was found that she allegedly tried giving $1.5 million in an earmark to a health nonprofit, but it's actually a restaurant. FBI Director Kash Patel is building cases into the 2020 election and Russia hoax figures, and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche approved an inquiry into Cassidy Hutchinson and moved to revive investigations into James Comey, Fani Willis, John Brennan, and Act Blue. President Trump signed an executive order flanked by Joe Rogan, HHS Secretary RFK Jr., and medical experts directing the FDA to expedite review of certain psychedelics like ibogaine, designated as breakthrough therapies for depression, PTSD, addiction, and veteran suicide prevention. The order improves data sharing with the VA and facilitates rescheduling upon approval. Rogan highlighted veteran stories, and Kennedy praised the focus on innovative treatments over failed approaches. HHS and VA efforts emphasized controlled medical settings. In other healthcare-related news, Kennedy is moving to have the EPA investigate pharmaceuticals infiltrating our drinking water. He explained, "There's hormones, there's antidepressants, there's all kinds of drugs in it. I have spoken to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin and urged him to conduct a program to look for pharmaceutical drug artifacts in our water. A lot of that water gets into our drinking water." President Trump announced Regeneron has agreed to most favored nations prices, giving massive discounts to Americans on 80% of their drugs. One drug is being cut in half from $537 to $225. Trump explained, 17 of the world's largest pharma companies, representing 80% of the branded drug market, have now agreed to sell their drugs to American patients at the lowest prices. On to immigration-related news. The U.S. Senate advanced the budget reconciliation for DHS, ICE, and CBP, and Border Czar Tom Homan revealed that outgoing ICE Director Todd Lyons faced protests at his home and his wife and kids were doxxed. A federal court struck down a judge that ruled Governor Ron DeSantis to dismantle alligator Alcatraz, and the Ninth Circuit Court struck down California's law that tried to force ICE agents to remove their masks, as the law violated federal supremacy. Texas Governor Greg Abbott revealed that although the Houston City Council voted to reverse their policy blocking police cooperation with ICE, the Houston Police Department refused to rescind that policy, so they may still have $110 million in funding revoked. The FBI and DOJ executed a raid to arrest members and associates of the Mexican Mafia, resulting in the arrests of 43 people charged for murder, kidnapping, trafficking, and more, totaling to 66 felony counts. Now it's time for the noteworthy tidbits, which are brought to you today by Old Glory. Let me tell you about them quick. Are you looking for a gift for a music lover, or maybe some apparel to show off your quirky side? Old Glory has you covered. With over 300,000 officially licensed items covering music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture, you're guaranteed to find the perfect item. They even have seasonal gear. My husband enjoys the Beatles and Led Zeppelin apparel, and I love the Billy Idol apparel. I even found items for my fellow plant enthusiasts. This family-owned superstore is known for their quality and customer service, offers free standard shipping on all orders, and orders are shipped the same day you purchase. My discount code gives you 15% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit oldglory.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's J-A-D-E, at checkout. All right, let's get back to the tidbits. The Save America Act faced Senate delays, and DOJ efforts on voter rolls continued. Investigations intensified into the 11-plus deaths and/or disappearances of scientists with classified access, with FBI Director Kash Patel announcing coordination with state and local partners. White House projects moved forward this week, with an appeals court allowing ballroom construction citing national security elements, the Lafayette Park fountains completely restored and running for the first time in years, funded personally by President Trump and others, and the reflecting pool restoration underway at the cost of $2 million instead of the originally estimated $300 million. War Secretary Pete Hegseth abolished the military's flu vaccine requirement, and he fired U.S. military nuclear chief Andrew Hugh after Hugh was caught divulging highly sensitive nuclear information by James O'Keefe. Navy Secretary John Phelan was reportedly fired by Secretary Hegseth, and Hung Chau is taking over as acting secretary. The Macon County, Georgia election supervisor and the deputy election registrar are both facing charges for federal health care fraud. FBI Director Kash Patel sued The Atlantic for $250 million over defamation claims after the outlet reported he's drunk all the time and constantly has unexplained absences. New York City Mayor Mamdani said he wants to go after the white wealth gap using the power of the government, and a New York City Council member is facing calls to be removed after he was arrested during a violent riot where people were assaulting police officers. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer is stepping down amid an investigation into misconduct allegations against her. A circuit court ruled that Virginia's redistricting referendum is unconstitutional, so a judge is blocking certification, and the governor of Mississippi is calling a special session to redistrict their state. Representative Chip Roy filed the Mamdani Act to deport and denaturalize foreigners advocating for or linked to an Islamist, socialist, communist, or Chinese Communist Party. The bill also targets aliens belonging to organizations advocating for Islamic fundamentalism, Marxism, socialism, or communism, according to Breitbart. The U.S. Supreme Court agreed to take up a challenge to Colorado's law that defunds Catholic preschools if they refuse to accept children with same-sex parents. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum revealed he found NGOs where up to 100% of their revenue was the federal government, and their CEO would make $650,000 a year and pay lobbyists $400,000. The Supreme Court suffered another leak, this time to the New York Times. Secretary of State Marco Rubio sent a delegation team to meet with the grandson of Fidel Castro in the hopes of securing more prisoner releases and opening up internet access. The U.S. Senate confirmed judicial nominee Andrew Davis as federal U.S. District Judge for the Western District of Texas. President Trump endorsed Anthony Constantino to replace Elise Stefanik in the U.S. House out of New York's 21st District. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is moving to modernize air traffic control, opting to digitize the system instead of using paper and floppy disks. President Trump suggested the federal government may purchase Spirit Airlines if someone else doesn't buy them out, which would save around 14,000 jobs. Sadly, U.S. Representative David Scott passed away at 80 years old. HUD Secretary Scott Turner and FHFA Director Bill Pulte moved to help young people buy a home by allowing credit scores that include rent and utility payments. The Missouri House passed legislation ensuring biological men can't go into women's bathrooms. After Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier put them on notice, administrators at Barry Law School reversed their ban on students starting a Turning Point USA chapter. Senator John Kennedy filed proposals on the Senate floor to do the following under reconciliation: require citizenship to vote, require voter ID, make Election Day one day only, block pay for senators during a shutdown, block government shutdowns before the midterms, let Americans buy insurance across state lines, abolish federal income taxes for poll workers, and other proposals related to the island of Diego Garcia and cost of living. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche reclassified state-licensed medical marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The order does not legalize it federally, but shifts it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, and also eases some research barriers on cannabis. This comes after Trump began the process via executive order back in December. U.S. Attorney Judge Janine Pirro is moving to hold parents responsible for allowing their youth to storm the streets of D.C. and commit violence and robberies. The Department of Commerce announced multiple $15 billion-plus record-setting critical energy investments from Pennsylvania, Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee. First Lady Melania Trump completed the fourth reunification of children in the Russia-Ukraine war. President Trump met with L.A. Mayor Karen Bass in the Oval Office regarding the wildfires, during which he called out the banks for mistreating people. Secretary Rubio signed a critical minerals partnership with the Trade Commissioner of the EU to lessen reliance on China. The DOJ revealed it's reviving death penalty by firing squad. Lastly, Senator Bernie Moreno filed to ban U.S. senators from trading on prediction markets such as Polymarket or Kalshi. That wraps up our recap of April 18th through 24th. A week of sustained economic and military leverage on Iran, landmark fraud indictments, ethics shakeups in Congress, and forward movement on veteran mental health treatments. The SPLC indictment is a game changer. How many more nonprofits are next? What stood out most to you this week? Drop your thoughts in the comments or on X. Also, don't forget to share this rundown with a friend. Thank you for listening and have a great day.